everybody. I'm Ronnie Moonborn.
Severine Nocturne.
And Firechild.
And today we are talking about tarot. All things tarot. I guess we'll start with talking about what kind of decks we have. I don't think any of us have the traditional tarot deck.
I don't think so. I mean, no. The one I have did the cards traditionally, but the imagery is not necessarily traditional imagery. My deck's called the Shadowscapes, and it's by Stephanie Puman Lau.
Mine is known as the Chrysalis Tarot, and the art is by Holly Sierra, and it is written by Tony Brooks. And mine is different in the way also the suits are different. Like, instead of swords, there's scrolls. Instead of pentacles, there's stones. Instead of cups, there's mirrors. And instead of wands, there's spirals.
And I've got the Celestial Tarot by Kay Stevenson and Brian Clark.
So I thought we might could go a little bit into the history of tarot. Well, maybe more so like for those of you guys who don't really know about a lot with tarot. And I wouldn't say I'm as fresh up on it, but I do know that the suits are all very representative of the elements. Cups is water, pentacles is earth, wands is fire, and swords is air. But I have heard people affinitively like switch swords and wands based on, you know, what they feel for themselves personally.
Because you would think swords would be fire.
You would think. I think it's more like it makes more sense to me that a wand would be wind, just because.
You swish with a wand.
Swish and flicker.
Oh my goodness.
But I guess too, swords cut through the air, so that's typically how people explain it.
So, is there anything you wouldn't read for someone? Like a certain if someone were to ask you one question that you absolutely would refuse to read, what would it be?
I really am not crazy about doing love readings. Like, I don't know. I feel, and maybe it's just, and I'm not like one of those I hate love type people, but I mean, like, for me personally, I feel like that's not a major focus in my life, and maybe that's why. Like, I wanna do a lot of self-exploration, and I don't know. I feel like I would not want to look into someone else's relationship with someone, because that's just something that changes at the drop of a hat.
I wouldn't mind doing a love reading for someone as long as it wasn't someone I personally knew, because then I feel like my feelings would kind of interject, and I don't want to interfere with someone's reading in that way.
Yeah. That's such an emotionally driven thing.
For me, I don't want to read about death, like seeking death. If it comes up in the reading, like something comes out about it, I'm going to tell you everything that comes forth in your reading. But I'm not going to avidly, like, when am I going to die? I'm not going to look that up for you. I'm sorry. I won't.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's not something I would want to look up either. What about you, Firechild?
Well, I'm not very keen on, you know, someone coming to me and say, am I going to be filthy stinking rich in the next 5 years? Or anything trying to, I guess, try to foretell the future per se, because to me the nature of tarot is to kind of help you guide decisions that you're actively making. And yes, these decisions that you make now will influence your future, as your decisions have been influenced by your past. You know, just trying to say where where you will definitely be at, or what you will definitely have, you know, at a specific point in the future. I think that's not something that's necessarily just meant for us. If you were given the gift of prophecy, I feel like, that's different. I feel like it's a more organic thing. It's going to come to you when it comes to you, and not necessarily when someone asks for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel very clairvoyant, so I can sometimes do get glimpses of the future through tarot, but I also get glimpses of the past through tarot. I do a lot of past life readings. I've done past life readings for both Severine and Firechild and myself.
And I feel like those are some of the more interesting ones to do, is sort of like taking from the past and figuring out how it will help you currently.
Well, when it comes to my own future, unless it's something that's really, really bothering me, I tend to I don't need to know. Mm-hmm. But for those who want to, I am more than happy to. But sometimes I feel like it's not meant to be. If I'm not getting a strong reading for it, then you're not meant to know.
Yeah, I agree too. So, do you guys have a favorite card?
I would have to say the one that resonates with me the most is the Six of Scrolls, which would be Swords, if I'm not mistaken, in a regular deck. Mm-hmm. The card itself on mine shows a fairy or angel leaning her forehead against an elephant, and I am like Firechild. Also, I adore elephants. They're such majestic creatures. And it's almost in such a loving way. Every time I look at this card, I feel peace and happiness. The card itself represents abundance. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me, it does not. It represents condolence. And every time I look at it, I just feel love and happiness and kindness. And I always look forward to seeing this card in my hand and being dealt.
I've got kind of two. The Queen of Wands is usually my favorite card in every deck. I don't know what it is. I guess it's the imagery. It's usually this woman with, traditionally it's a woman, a black cat, a sunflower, and on my card it's sort of this fae woman playing a harp, and there are these foxes around. It's really pretty, and it talks about that the card represents being dedicated and engaging, and that she's always cheerful and upbeat. So I think that kind of probably resonates with me on a personal level. As far as in this particular deck, one of my favorites is also the Queen of Wands, and it's of a woman with this swan on her shoulder, and she's holding a crescent moon, and it talks about that she represents intelligence, loyal, and witty, and humorous attributes. So that's my two favorite ones. What about you, Firechild?
I think probably my favorite card would be the Ten of Wands, which is fire, and the emblem of the salamander, which is the the fire spirit. Fire has always been a very conscious icon for me, and the fact that fire can be a cleanser. Baptism by fire is an old saying. It's a trial that you go through, but when you come on the other side of it, you're renewed, you're restored. The old has been burned away, and kind of dealing with that, I feel like, are the cards number 17 of the major arcana, the star, which is Aquarius, and there's a lot of shifting. There's this change in you after some struggle that you've gone through. And the other part of the duality of Aquarius would be the hope that you carry going into the future. And then also number 18 of the major arcana, the moon, which is Pisces. It's dealing with the past as well as the present. And as we were talking about tarot, I feel like in our current day-to-day lives, one of the things that we really get away from, just due to the distractions we encounter, is the fact that who we are now was shaped by everything, everyone, every time we've ever encountered. And who we are now, making decisions, that's going to influence where, our future selves. And so, kind of keeping your mind open to all of those possibilities. I feel like that's kind of what helps in the practice of divination.
I really, in this deck personally, the Ace of Stones, which is about abundance, more so like financial possessions wise. The card itself is beautiful. It's uplifting. It's a stone sitting as the sun is rising, or it's like mid-morning, risen, and it just has all this light shining off of it. If a card gives me peaceful feelings, I tend to adore it, because I recently went through a time in my life where there was not a lot of peace happening. I am no longer in that point in my life, but any card that represents peace is nice. I also love Elfie the Star. In my deck, it shows Elfie coming down to some horses from the sky, and in her hand she's holding what looks like a star or a cup, and it's just shining, and the card represents hope and choices. And I'm a very hopeful person, and that's why it resonates with me, and I do believe that the choices we make help guide our lives. And I have made some very bad choices in my life. But I've learned from those choices, and I'm very happy. And then lastly, I think the other card that really, really makes me happy to see is Gaia the Empress. She is number 3 in the major arcana, and she is also about abundance. What does that say about me? But I believe this is more about personal growth and life in general. The card shows Gaia surrounded with animals and plant life. If you're listening to this via YouTube, you will see these cards as we talk about them.
Yeah.
It's beautifully drawn, and it makes me happy every time I see it. And for my deck personally, they talk about the inverted and uninverted. I don't so much feel that with my deck a lot of times. Some of it is, if I get a feeling like something's wrong, why is this card like this? Then I'm going to go into that and, try to channel that energy and find out why. But most of the time, if it's upside down, it's just upside down for me.
I don't really read reversals. My book actually does not include reversal readings, which, usually there's ways to find out, but I've sort of felt like that reversals is not really something.
I feel that for mine too, because my book doesn't have reversals in it either. So
yeah, and not saying that that's why. Saying that I've always felt personally like that's just not something I feel is necessary to read a reversal on a card. I've always kind of just gone with whatever I feel like I get out of the imagery, or intuitively. I feel like if you feel like there's something wrong with it to be upside down, like Ronnie was talking about, like, oh no, this should not be upside down, that's not a good thing. If that's how you feel, then yeah, but I've never felt much of a strong inclination in that way.
Well, like the Ace of Cups, to me, that's not a good one I'd want to see upside down. Because it shows a cup being filled, and as it's being filled, it pours out. and flows onward to you. But if it's upside down, that means your cup is pouring out.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the ones I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, sometimes I feel that way too. I think, it just depends on sort of what your vibe that you're getting off of it is. There have been a couple of times that I've been like, oh, that's not good, it's upside down. But then there's a couple of times that I'm just like, oh, it's not really that big of a deal. What about you? Do you read reversals, Firechild?
I do read reversals. The book that was included with my deck doesn't actually have reversals, but I actually have a large book for my tarot deck that goes into a lot more detail, because it goes into a lot of the mythology associated with the icons on the card, like the goddesses, then of course the gods and goddesses, and a lot of elemental things. And it also does, the expanded book does include reversal readings. So I've always felt strongly about reversals. That's just my personal take on a tarot reading.
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong. It's just,
I don't think there's a wrong way to.
It depends on who the reader is. Like, I feel that if I'm reading it and I don't feel reversal like that, then I shouldn't recognize it. Whereas if you were doing a reading and it's like, ooh, I don't like that this is reversed, and not necessarily that the reversal is a bad thing, because I've had readings where people do reversals and it's the same or reversed, or it's like slightly different.
Or sometimes better.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes with certain cards,
yeah,
you'd prefer to see them.
Yeah, so by no means I don't think a reversal is a negative thing.
Do you guys charge your decks?
Oh, I do it. Before every reading, I will charge my deck. I charge it and I cut it. And now that I have found my patron Apollo, I say a little prayer to Apollo to help him enhance my abilities to get a more accurate reading.
Personally, I keep mine in a bag, and I keep a piece of fluorite with them. Fluorite's good for charging tarot cards for intuitive purposes and sort of the psychic abilities involved with using them. So I like to do a prayer also, and I like to just sort of have like a personal moment with the cards, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Do you charge yours?
I charge my deck before each use for myself, and I ask for guidance, so that if this is a query that is meant to be shared, that I will receive a meaning that is beneficial to the querent. And then after I've imparted some energy, I ask the querent to do the same, so that there's a little bit of them, since it is their question. And so due to that, I try to do cleansings on my cards as well, just because, which I haven't worked with a lot of other individuals. To me, tarot is something intensely personal, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't personally done much tarot reading lately, because I have been exploring other avenues of practice. But just for me, I prefer to do it with someone, with a like-minded individual that takes these things seriously, and it's not just some sort of novelty to them.
I don't mind doing it for novelty, as long as they respect that this is not novelty for me. Because I've done a reading for a friend before who doesn't really believe in tarot, but respects my belief in tarot.
Yeah, I think it's about sort of their attitude coming in. And I mean, that's just going to be in general. If you come in and you're not really into it, then what's the point? You're probably just going to get a bunch of gobbledygook when it comes out anyway.
Well, I think in the last video we talked about paying for tarot, and I feel like that's a good way to weed out those people.
Oh, yeah.
It's because if you have to pay for it, more than likely this is something you believe in. That being said, I'll read for strangers, but I like to get to know them a little bit first, just so I can get a feel for their energies. And it helps. I don't like going into a blank reading, like you just want a reading, you have no questions or anything. I like going in seeking a purpose, because then it helps me get a more accurate reading for you. I've done blank readings before, and 9 times out of 10, it tends to be a little gobbledygook. I mean, sometimes it's a good reading, and I feel it, but sometimes I just don't feel it, and it's more so what I feel and not what they feel. It's just, I'm like, this doesn't feel right to me.
Which I'm like Ronnie. I've actually done some blank readings too. Although I feel like, I won't say most of the time it was a nonsensical array of cards that were drawn, but actually probably about half the time that I did do the blank readings, there actually was a meaning to the person, who just asked me to do it. And, then they kind of came back to me later and they're like, so yeah, some of the things that you were saying just kind of really made sense. And I guess that's one of the reasons I'm kind of about, well, when I say novelty, it's just, someone who just thinks it's fun. Mm-hmm. Now, even if it's not something that you practice, now if you're respecting of the fact that this is a serious thing to me, and and you would like a reading, no, I definitely don't mind that. But yeah, if you just think it's funny and you just think it's a game, then I don't engage with that. For me personally, because if I'm expending my energy in tarot, I don't like to waste it.
Well, traditionally speaking, there are actually tarot games. I've never played any. Who knows, maybe one day we do intend to do some games and stuff. I might find one for us, but I mean, I think that it just kind of depends on if it's a positive thing or if it's a negative thing. Like, if you're going in and you sort of are just using it as a tool to make fun of someone's beliefs, yeah, that's just, the universe deals with things like that, I feel like. I don't think anything's wrong with having fun. Sometimes it is fun. It's fun to hear about a past life. I think sometimes it's fun to sort of hear about other things too, but it just depends. But on the topic of readings that you guys have done, have you had some that you've had good experiences with and bad experiences, and do you want to talk about any of those?
I recently did a reading for 2 friends, and both had one was a positive reading and the other one was a warning. The one for my friend, the one that was positive, but I actually thought there was something going on, and it was with you, Firechild. I was worried, did a personal reading for you. I was just worried about you because we hadn't hung out in a while, and I was just like, and I'm a worrier. It's just what I am. I'm very Papa Bear when it comes to my friends. And so I did a reading, and the reading was so positive, and I was like, wow, things are going to actually look like they're going good for Firechild, and I was so happy. And then I did a reading for a friend of mine, and the warning came up about her choices. And I was just like, ooh, it was scary because, the choices that she made could be very drastic. Not death, but, spiritual death, maybe.
Ooh.
Yeah, which isn't good. And I was I told her, I was like, hey, just be careful what decisions you make. But what's just funny, because that weekend she went on vacation by herself. She did a self-cation, and I was so proud of her. Because the reading was to basically detach herself from her family. Not in a, I can't be a part of the family anymore type of way, but not to be as involved as she was with her family.
Knowing when to separate.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Firechild?
Let's see. I think one of the best experiences that I've had doing readings was one that I did for someone, and actually, probably one of the best and worst were, I think, for the same person. And one of the best ones, she had been really struggling, with some things, and she felt pretty lost. And so I did a reading for her, and it made her feel so much better. And then she ended up later on getting an oracle deck. But at the same time, I was concerned about some of her life choices because she was kind of on a self-destructive path. And in a very interesting turn of events, I ended up channeling a message from a family member of hers who had passed on. And at first, I was like, I wasn't sure who it was. But then when I told her what the person told me, she kind of got pale, and she looked at me, and she told me, about the things that I couldn't have known about, that she had never shared with me. And I was just like, whoa. But she ended up making some choices to change her life. She started, really spending more time just focusing on improving herself, and she's been doing so much better. And I'm really happy with where she's at, because she just seems like she's trying to be more positive in, the things that she's doing, because she wants to get stronger and help people.
That's very interesting. But I absolutely love tarot, and it has such a negative connotation with it.
Well, a lot of people, sort of, at least in a lot of different communities, there's a belief that they're sort of like evil.
Well, because there is a devil card in it, but the devil card doesn't necessarily mean the actual devil.
No, the devil card deals a lot with dealing with temptation and having to sort of overcome a lot of that. And
I feel like the card I'd rather not see at all is the Tower.
The Tower is one that can just not. I'd be okay with that.
I'm okay with seeing that one upside down.
If that one ever comes in my deck, I'll be like, oh, it's inverted, so therefore it's null and void.
Okay.
But Ronnie, you don't believe in inverted. Today I do.
Today
I can make exceptions.
Today.
Just a heads up, guys. Once we reach 1,000 subscribers, we're doing a giveaway of a tarot deck. It is my very first tarot deck. It is called the Universal Weight Tarot Deck. It's like pocket size. It's gently used, and it will be cleansed before we send it to you. But once we reach 1,000 subscribers, we will again mention that we're doing our giveaway. Yeah. And all you have to do to win this giveaway is, in this video, comment below or email us something tarot related. Mm-hmm. And if you win, we will contact you and we will send you this tarot deck. It's a wonderful tarot deck for starters. So if you're a novice and you're scared about starting tarot, this one's a very good one to start with, in my opinion.
So share with us some of your favorite experiences with tarot. Maybe a warning that you had of danger that you didn't even see coming that really helped you dodge the bullet. Maybe a really positive message that just uplifted your day. Just something you needed to hear at that particular time.
Or tell us about how tarot is not speaking to you at all.
That's okay too. Sometimes, things other people are into are not your thing.
Also, other side notes. This year we will be attending, I don't know if Firechild's attending yet, but I know me and Severine will be attending Pagan Pride in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is September 16th and 17th.
I think so. We'll
get back to you on those days.
Yeah.
But come by and meet us. We will have some type of identification so that you know who we are, and we look forward to seeing you.
All right, you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and close this one out, and we will see you next time.
Blessed be, guys.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.